Hey everyone, welcome to Freedom Live. I'm your host, Mike Nano. Tonight we're joined by a special guest, Michael Freeman, to discuss a very unique topic, voluntarist combat veterans. Michael's a combat veteran of 6 years for the U.S. Army, right out of high school, and was discharged in 2010. Thank you for joining us, Mike.
Hey, Mike, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I got to give you some. I like your name, by the way.
Thanks, man. Before we dive into this topic, I always ask the guests to give a little background info on themselves.
Sure.
So first, I got to ask, how did you get to your current philosophy?
It was a roller coaster, to say the least. I've been a punk rocker my whole life, and when I was a teenager, we'll say, I was an anarchist, but I didn't know the terms. I didn't understand the philosophy yet. I was more of like a, hey, fuck everybody, don't tell me what to do type. And then I went from that to joining the Army after high school, which is a total flip-flop, obviously. And I was a nationalistic fool for a good long time there, and really after Afghanistan, I started to kind of piece together the entire lack of accountability there, and it's just very clear that we weren't upholding the Constitution or protecting anybody's freedom or liberating anybody. Quite the opposite. We were setting up an empire or helping to maintain it, whatever. So yeah, I separated in 2010, and I kind of got into the Alex Jones school of thought, or lack of thought. Yeah, I jumped on the conspiracy train for a while there and lost my mind a little bit. Eventually from there I found Ron Paul, and he really sparked the non-aggression principle to me, and the term voluntarism. And my friend John had been telling me for a year that I was a voluntarist, and I just, I didn't know the word, even what it meant. And yeah, from there, I got into Molyneux and Adam Kokesh's show and Shanklin, and just did the math where a limited government is a pipe dream. I think the Constitution was probably a decent idea at the time, but to paraphrase Spooner here, either the Constitution is allowing this to happen, or it established this death machine to begin with. So, yeah, from there I found Spooner and Rothbard and Mises, and once I hit the end of the well, there's just really nowhere else for me to go at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Anarchy it's a lifelong philosophy. It's not a political movement. It's very anti-political, and I would actually argue, even myself as a voluntarist, you never really go back to the status way of thinking. It's kind of like it's almost ridiculous to go back to that kind of way of thinking once you understand that you own yourself and nobody owns you, and you understand non-aggression and self-responsibility. To go back to that kind of old way of thinking, it's almost like someone saying, I want to get rid of my refrigerator and bring back the icebox. Or I want to get rid of my flat screen, high def TV and go back to tube TVs with the dials. It's just, it isn't going to happen.
I think the best that I could do there is attempt to stop thinking about this stuff and, stop caring, but there's no way to go back to nationalism from here.
Right. Yeah, well, that's something that it's the kind of thing that the education system and our parents and our teachers and friends and people who care about us, they pound that stuff into kids at a very young age because they know that kids are not intelligent enough to mount a sophisticated argument against that kind of way of thinking. And it's not done maliciously. It's not done to, I'm going to enslave their little minds. No, it's just they say that because they think that's what it is, because that's what they were taught.
Yeah.
I think the beginning of your political journey is kind of an interesting one. So it seems to me like you were kind of like in purgatory almost, and I guess your only ideology was, I got really nothing against authority. I just don't like being told what to do. And that's kind of my philosophy. Like when someone says, "So you got something against authority?" No, I don't have anything against authority. I just don't like people telling me what to do. And that's you're free in your own mind. I think that's great. And it's it's great that you mentioned Ron Paul, because everyone that's come on the show, when I ask them how they got to their current philosophy, whether it's anarchism, voluntarism, libertarian, they always say Ron Paul. And
Sure.
Ron Paul is, let's just face it, Ron Paul is statist. I mean, it even hurts me to say it now. I like Ron Paul, and ironically enough, even though he was in government, he is responsible for pushing so many people towards anarchy than really anyone that I can really think of. And some people would say Rothbard, some people will say Molyneux. I think Ron Paul's got to be up there, top three.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a lot to do with my transition. I'll say that. At the same time, I wouldn't have voted for him. I would not vote for anyone ever. I support Kokesh pretty hardcore, and I wouldn't. I think he's going to be in jail probably anyways. But in 2020, I still wouldn't even vote for him. Even if Ron Paul wants to limit the government or go back down to a constitutional format or whatever, he's still going to own me. Even if I kind of agree with most of the things he says, he's still really going to own me and be able to send people with guns to beat, kill, cage, whatever plethora of bad things that can happen there. So,
yeah, Ron Paul would definitely be a really nice slave master. Like he might whip me like once a year and not like 20 times a day. But I think Ron Paul is a closeted anarchist. I mean, really. I mean, but his fan base, his following is capital L libertarian. So I think he has a hard time really just coming out and just saying it. I mean, he's said that he likes voluntarism, and the things that he says, just philosophically, is just anarchy, just all the way. But yeah, Ron Paul.
Use that word.
What word?
Anarchy. He might not go as far to say that, but the ideas that he preaches.
Right. Yeah, right, absolutely, because I think that word kind of scares a lot of people. Yeah, so good stuff, man. So were your parents political? Were they non-political, apolitical?
Parents?
Yes.
To be quite honest, in my story, that's kind of irrelevant. My father died when I was 6. My mother's not really been in the picture. And if I had to guess, my father was in the Navy, so I would say probably Republican. My mother, I think, is just impartial.
Oh, okay. I
Intent.
got you. Okay, so were you public schooled? Were you private schooled?
Yeah, I was public schooled a lot of the time. I was expelled from North Kingstown High School, of course, just for skipping class and smoking weed, But yeah, I did the charter school thing for a little while. I did the alternative school thing for a little while. Eventually, I was in group homes a lot of the time. So I went to Cranston East and graduated like in the summer after my senior year. But I didn't even know what the word liberal or conservative or Congress meant until I was at least 19.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, since you joined the U.S. Army, I think your world perspective probably kind of changed from being in that kind of purgatory to being the kind of forced to adopt the idea of the Constitution and nationalism and patriotism.
Yep.
And so yeah, I mean, let's definitely jump into this. So yeah, go ahead, man. So voluntarist combat veterans. Yeah,
Sure. It's just kind of a tough understanding to it's really hard to accept that when this, you're told you're a hero, and maybe you even believe that a little bit. I probably did for a little while. And you know, a lot of the approach of, we'll say, brutalists, or the approach that a lot of people take is like the troops are welfare whores, you're just a murdering scumbag, blah blah blah. Where yeah, that's all true. I do get a pension. I am paid through taxation, you know, and theft. But at the same time, I made a contractual arrangement with this organization, and it is better for me to have this money than somebody who's going to use it to kill people, I'd say. But yeah, it's just it's kind of a hard thing that I struggle with. Like I preach all these ideas about peace and consent, consensual interaction, and I firsthand helped uphold the U.S. world empire. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess you kind of just said it all right there in that one sentence, and that's not really something they tell people when you walk into a recruiting office. Um, I can attest to that. I've been inside of a recruiting office before, and um, you know, everything's like, hey, do you want to see the world? And this is a great future for you, and you
Free
know,
school.
yeah, exactly,
And
and of course the
those
school.
are the only good points, and they have to play on them. If, it's cliche to say this, but if a recruiter told you the truth, you wouldn't join the military unless you're a fucking psychopath, sociopath, to be honest. Yeah.
Right,
So,
right.
you know,
And if go ahead, no, go ahead.
yeah, so on the interwebs, I'm called hypocrite from time to time and stuff like that. I mean, I've only been to where I met you at PorkFest was my first real Liberty event. You know, I've been to a political rally or two, but you know, that's a waste of time. Yeah, and not there so much, but yeah, mainly on the interwebs, people will learn that I've done the war thing, and you know, name calling ensues from there, and there's no real. I noticed there's no real middle ground there. It's either I'm a hypocrite and a welfare whore, or kind of where it seems like you're coming from. You know, I was on the inside and worked for the man, so I know their tricks, and I know you know, I've firsthand seen some of the truth about it. But there's never like an in between. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I kind of believe, you know, I don't blame people for their mistakes, and don't get me wrong by saying this. I mean, you might agree it was a mistake, but it's only a mistake if you continue that mistake and you don't view it as a mistake later on.
Yeah.
And at least you have done it, you've experienced it, and you kind of learn that it was kind of the wrong thing to do. So, you know, you've made a attempt to make some kind of changes in your own mind and to really speak out against it to other people. And I know you told me earlier you don't want to go into the nitty-gritty details of what happened over there because I think everyone pretty much has an idea. But what what caused you to see that what you were doing was defending an empire and that your current philosophy that they beat into your head at boot camp and whatnot was pretty much wrong?
Um, this might sound silly, and I'm not going to say I have a different stance at this point. I kind of have a lack of a stance at this point. 9/11, you know, once I started delving into, yeah, I was looking in, you know, thermite and all the, trying to make myself sound smart like a scientist, but I'm not. I'm not experienced or educated in any field that could apply there. Architecture, chemical stuff, science, whatever, none of it. I can shoot explosives pretty well, but I don't know how to make them or the science. So, but that's kind of another thing. That led me to see, and I don't like to use the word statistics, but I can't come up with a better one right now. Government statistics. You know, the amount of deaths caused by the bad guys in Iraq, or Afghanistan or Libya or Syria or wherever it is. The actual logical threat level there versus the dramatic freedom stealing and power grabs going on back here. And, you know, I'm in Iraq or Afghanistan kicking in farmers' goddamn doors, and cops are killing 5,000 people over here. Yeah, I just started to add the stuff up. You know, 1,000 some odd people got killed in a building that. Again, I try not to even have an opinion on it. We'll never know. The commission report was total bullshit, but we're never going to know the truth. And I get that. I think. Yeah. So 1,000 some odd people die, and then the government starts sticking their hands up child's butts, and you know, people trying to get on planes are nearly getting blowjobs from TSA agents every time. It's just a madhouse, and I just started to do the math. You know, there's between 500 and 600. I think it's 554 total. You know, oligarchs who just run the rest of our lives with the threat of guns being pointed at us. And yeah, once I started to see that stuff, there was no going back for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you feel a sense of like a pack mentality among your combat unit? Did you feel pressure to not speak out against what you saw was injustice? Because you decided to appeal to your own morality of what was right and what was wrong. And did you have any kind of fear of saying to someone in your squad, you know, this is evil, we shouldn't be doing this?
See, well, at the time, I didn't really process all of this until about when I was getting out of the military. So at the time, I'm not going to say okay with it. I was very confused, and it's hard to explain. There's not much time to think philosophy when you're running around in 130 degrees, getting chased by bullets and stuff like that. Yeah, it wasn't until around maybe the end of 2009 to when I separated that I really started to think about this stuff, to be honest. I obviously knew when you're pointing guns at people who aren't pointing guns at you, you have to know in the back of your head that that's wrong. And I did, and it grew a lot towards the end of my my service, but I never honestly acted on it. I talk to veterans that I served with now, and it doesn't usually go well. They'll think I'm a hippie or a pacifist, or I don't know, maybe that I couldn't handle war, so now I'm against violence or something like that. Or I get called liberal pretty often. But
you know, those are still people that are still stuck inside that statist, nationalistic, you know, mind frame that is pounded into their heads from probably from the time they were kids. Maybe their father was in the military and their grandfather was in the military, so they had an obligation to go in there and serve the country, and they think they're going over there and fighting people that pose no threat to anybody over here. Keep in mind, if you want to believe the official 9/11 story, it was 19 Saudi nationalists
with box cutters
took control of those planes and with box cutters brought the greatest power to its knees with box cutters, and the United States government thinks that they can stop it with aircraft carriers. So it's literally that insane. And you know, on my end, I bought into that whole nationalistic, patriotic garbage. You know, right after 9/11, I was a sophomore in high school, and to me, that was like, you know, I was like gung-ho, and we should go over there and, you know, kill them all. And I always said to myself that when I get to be 18, I'm going to join the military. And, you know,
let's turn the Middle East into a Walmart, right?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. And, you know, and I say now, like, probably 10 years ago, I might have agreed with you. If you were to say that to me, I'd say, yeah, let's do it. Today, I'd say, yeah, and kill a bunch of people that never did anything to you.
And how many children are over there exactly?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can tell you, conservatively estimated 500,000 Iraqi kids were killed because of U.S. sanctions between 1993 and current occupation.
Number I don't know the exact source right now, but the numbers that that you're talking about are 3 years old. So.
Right, and former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright under Bill Clinton actually went on 60 Minutes and said that those are acceptable numbers.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, we're fighting the good fight, and we feel like the what did she say? The collateral damage is outweighed by the threat posed here and the liberation of the Iraqi people.
Yeah, and you wonder why those people over there they hate us, and
I don't.
I say us. They say us because I think they're stuck, just like we are over here, in the whole collectivist mind frame when they think that 350 million Americans are on board with what the United States government is doing, and that's just really not true. The same thing over here. The majority of Americans think that Muslims are bad because based off of religion, and it's a peaceful religion. I know people of the Muslim faith, and because of the actions of certain individuals, gives the whole collective group really a bad image, and that's all part of government trying to ramp up support for a war, because a government can never go to war unless it has support from people. So it all comes down to hate, 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 and fear, fear, fear.
To go back to what you said earlier, pack mentality really applies there. It's sports mentality, team mentality, us versus them, and that's kind of a genius concept when you are manipulating people to believe it. You really got to hand it to these people, these criminals.
Yep.
I will go as far to say that whatever brown group of people we're talking about here, whether it's Libya, Iraq, Iran, whatever country we fuck with, they are more warranted to be mad at us than, and I mean us as in the people, not the government. They are more warranted to be mad at us than we are to them. Yeah. And I'm no apologist either. I'm really not. Ex-brown guy is not kicking my door in and putting guns in my face. That's a fact, and we are doing that. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean I mean we the government, not. And I don't want to say we the people either. But you get me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got you, man. All right. So, anything else that you want to discuss today?
No, but I think next time we need a different topic. I'm getting real sick of talking about this one. This is like the 5th show I've been on talking about this.
Well, I agree, and you know what? I don't want to say that I understand because I wasn't over there.
You can empathize.
But yeah, I mean, at least you can maybe think of it as getting it off your chest.
Yeah.
And maybe getting some kind of closure on it.
I'd rather talk philosophy than talk to a VA shrink, that's for sure.
Yeah, I got you, man. So before I let you go, I always ask the guests, if you were on your deathbed and you had cameras pointed at you from major news networks and you only had 2 minutes to say anything to the world, what would you say?
You ever see the video of the crazy guy in public and he's like, "Love now, live now"? That guy? Any idea? I would say exactly.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen him, and I heard he's going to be on Journalistic Revolution this week.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think his name is like Matthew Joseph or something.
yeah. I mean, really, I would just say love now and just be you, be yourself, and just have fun and don't get too caught up in negative stuff. And if you're happy doing nothing or doing everything or making rice or riding bikes, whatever, just do what makes you happy. And don't force me to go along with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, man. Hey, awesome, good stuff.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mike.
I'm really, yeah, I really enjoyed having you on, and I'd like to have you on again in a couple of months. How's that sound?
Great, sounds great, man.
Awesome. All right, well, please check us out at Statism of Slavery on Facebook. It's currently the largest anarchist site with nearly 200,000 subscribers, and it's growing every day. And please tune in every Monday night at 8 p.m. for Freedom Live, broadcasted from Voluntary Virtues Network. And have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.